Charlotte Korchak, senior educator from Stand With Us, back with another Ask Charlotte question of the week with JTV. This week's question comes to us from Ben in London, and the question is, why is Israel's public relations PR so bad? What a good question. As somebody who's both an American and an Israeli, this is a very valid question. And there's a lot of layers to it. So let's first just talk about Israelis. Look, for a lot of Israelis, they have lived a life of terror and violence and have lived under threats since the moment this country was founded. And so for so many years, Israelis didn't think that they needed to explain themselves to the world. They didn't think that they needed to explain that when people try to kill you, that you need to do what you need to do to defend yourself. And it wasn't until the last really 20 years, and I would really even argue the last 10 years, that Israel and the Israeli government and Israelis themselves really woke up to the reality that not only do they need to explain themselves to people because people don't truly understand what's going on here, but more importantly, they need to explain themselves. Israelis have the mentality of, why should I have to explain myself to anybody else? Well, we live in a globalized world and people want to understand what's going on here. And so one of the reasons is just simply that, Israelis and their lack of understanding of the need to explain themselves to the world. Then the other part of it is broadly why people perceive Israel the way that it is a very simple power dynamic. They see Israel as the powerful side and they see the Palestinians as the underdog. And when you present the conflict in that way, people are obviously, psychologically, we are pushed to root for the underdog. And you should root for the underdog. You should root for the Palestinians. They're innocent people and they are suffering under the hands of their own government. They have tyrannical terrorist regimes that rule over them. And so there's a lot of layers here. But that element of the power dynamic and the underdog plays a huge role in why even when Israel does try to then explain itself, there's this pushback of, but you're in the power position. You're the one who's supposed to make peace. The onus is on you. And when you unfortunately alleviate or don't talk about any responsibility that the Palestinian Authority or that Hamas as a terrorist organization has in this conflict, unfortunately, you see things in a really, really wrong way. And so we need to do better. We need to do better at making sure that Israelis and Israel understands why good PR, good explanations of what's actually going on are really important. And we also need to help the world understand that this isn't a simple dynamic of a good guy and a bad guy, an oppressor and an oppressed. This is a reality where there are good guys on both sides, innocent people who are suffering in this conflict on both sides, and there are bad people on both sides. An extreme on the Palestinian side that is significantly more extreme than the extreme on the Israeli side, and a corrupt Palestinian Authority government. And then on Israel's side, a government that sometimes does bad things or makes the wrong decisions. So the point is that our PR tends to be bad because people tend to simplify things a little bit too much. And unfortunately, this is not a conflict that we can simplify. It's complicated. There are a lot of layers. So we all need to do better. And if you want to do better, obviously Stand With Us is always here to help with those efforts. JTV is here to help with those efforts. So I hope that answered the question. Thank you all so much. Looking forward to another question next week. Have a great week, everyone.